Good evening. I hope everybody's had a great summer. Good to see you all again. We're here starting our 21-22 season online via Zoom for September. And we are going to be doing our usual talks. I won't get into 2022 because we're not certain what's going to happen there. But I will just give you some information that obviously there's this talk tonight. Our next talk is in October, the 21st of October and the 18th of November. We have Kieran Riley, and I'll mention this at the end of the meeting, coming to speak to us about the evictions during the Great Irish Famine. And we have Colm Liddy, who's a local historian from Newmarket-on-Fergus, coming to speak to us in November on the 18th about the O'Briens of Dromolin. So those are two Zoom meetings in the future that you might want to take note of. Anyway, it's great to see everybody back and to see familiar faces and names. You're all very welcome, and it's great to be able to have another season here. So I'm just going to do a couple of very quick housekeeping things before we get started. Everybody is muted, bar, well, Aileen is muted for the moment, but she won't be muted in a minute there. And then we will all go muted. We will all remain muted while Aileen gives her presentation. At the end of the presentation, she'll take questions. You are more than welcome. At the bottom of your screen here, there is a little chat box. If you press the more button, you can input your questions, and we will deal with the questions at the end of the presentation. You are also more than welcome to tell us where you're listening from. That's always a nice thing for us to know. I know there are people abroad that are in this meeting tonight, so we'd love to hear where you're from. It's great to know where people are listening from. Anyway, two things there. I just want to send our sincere sympathies on behalf of the committee to several people that have passed away between the last meeting and over the summer. One is Jim Mollahan. Jim Mollahan was a long-standing Clare Root Society member from Quilty who passed away over the summer. He actually wrote an article in the Other Clare there not too long ago about the forgotten pioneers of the GAA, Tom and Patty Mollahan, and he passed away. Chris O'Neill is another longstanding Clare Root Society member that passed away. She was the founder of the Burren Painting Center and O'Neill's Bed and Breakfast in Lisdoonvarna. As I said, she was a longstanding member of Clare Root Society, so our sincere sympathies to the family. And Dr. Fergus Moylan passed away. He was a brother to Oliver Moylan, who's a longstanding member of Clare Root Society as well. So our sympathies to their families on their passing. Another thing I want to mention is that we have two new books out. One is Old Mill Street, which is available in Ennis Bookshop, O'Connor's Newsagents, and Mary Kelly's Newsagents. And we have the Clooney Graveyard transcriptions book, which is out as well, available in those places, as well as Quinn Post Office and Clooney stores for those people that are living in Clooney. And both books are €15. We don't have a virtual book table here for you to purchase, so you can go in, you can actually email Ennis Bookshop as well, and they will post out those books to you. Now, I think I'll get started by introducing Aileen. Aileen Wynne is a Clare Root Society committee member. She is also one of our IT experts for our website. Aileen has been working on her family history and genealogy for more than 20 years. She has completed both the certificate and diploma in the genealogy family history courses in UCD back in 2004 and 2006. She was the secretary of the IGRS, the Irish Genealogical Research Society, the Ireland branch from 2017 to this year. And she's an active member, as I said, of Clare Root Society, as well as a number of other genealogy and family history organizations. She is very involved and co-chairs or co-admins the IGP Clare page, the Facebook pages for Meath and Westmeath, and she manages the IGP archives page for counties Clare and Westmeath. And her talk tonight is going to be on the IGP archives and the amazing resource that they are, and the resources and the documents that are available. So Aileen, I hope that I have mentioned that you are undertaking the Master's in the History of the Family, which she's starting, or has started at UL, and congratulations to her. That's a great feat, great achievement. So without further ado, I'm going to go mute and I'm going to hand over to Aileen.
Thanks a million, Jane, for that lovely introduction. So just so everyone knows, me doing that Master's is the worst kept secret on the planet, because I'm working very hard at trying to not let my mother find out until I can invite her to my graduation. So shh, you didn't hear it from us, but it's a fun thing to do. So this evening, I'm really, really delighted to be here to talk to you about the igpweb.com, which is the most incredibly underused but free genealogical resource. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is and how it came about. I'm then going to talk about the county pages, the archive pages, and the Facebook pages. So they're the three main things to do with IGP. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about, give you some examples and show you what we're talking about. So this talk came about because last year the IGRS started off the Wallace Clare Awards, and they awarded Christina Hunt as one of the people who got the inaugural award. And when I was talking to a friend of mine about this, she was going, I don't know what this IGP thing is. And I was quite surprised, because for me, IGP is like Cindy's List. It's the go-to resource when you're looking for something. There's always something interesting there. And then I realized that for those of us who've been doing genealogy a long time, we know that there are books that have lists of sources, and there are web pages with lists of sources. It's only 2009 that the census records went online for Ireland. It's only 2016 when civil registration went online. So anyone who's been doing genealogy since then, that's where they start, and they don't necessarily realize that there's a whole world out there. For those of us who've been doing genealogy for a long, long time, we used to have to go in and use libraries and archives, and we still do. So back in the day, when the internet was a very new and spangly thing, and before websites were a real thing and we understood what we were doing and knew them to be the great resources that they can be nowadays, a lot of family history societies, and in fact, even before that, they used to keep the information themselves and try and make information freely available. So find a local resource, a burial register, or transcribing a graveyard. Many, many things that Clare Root Society is phenomenally good at, and try and get these resources and make them freely available for other people. So it's a really altruistic thing. And that's what genealogy and family history should be. And so about 1996, there was this wonderful website in the States called the USA Gen Web. And it basically took every state in America and created a website for it. And Christina realized that this was a great thing and we needed one for Ireland. And so she created essentially IGP Web, Ireland Genealogy Projects with an S, and we'll come back to that. For Ireland, it covers the 32 counties, and initially it was just a page per county. So igp-web.com is the name of the website. And we'll just go on to that now. So here's one I prepared earlier. Let's hope the screen share works now. Okay, so if you go to igp-web.com, this is the opening page, and we'll see Ireland Genealogy Projects, not to be confused with what was Ireland Genealogy Project, which became the Irish Family History Federation, or the website that you're all familiar with, which is Roots Ireland. And there's three main things to the IGP website. There's the county pages, the archive pages, and the Facebook pages. Now I'm going to ignore Facebook for a few minutes, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the county pages and the archive pages. And so here you see a list of county pages on the left and archive pages on the right. So if we go on to, I'm not actually going to spend a lot of time talking about County Clare, because everybody here, I know you have Clare ancestors. I know that you know your way around the Clare records. However, there's lots of other counties out there, and I'm sure a lot of you have family in those as well. So this is the County Clare IGP project county page. So the county pages have a different look and feel. And the most important link on this, which is unusual because in Clare we are so spoilt, it's the link to the Clare County Library, because that is one of the greatest places to find records for Clare. So this is the County Clare page. I'm now going to show you I'm now going to show you another one. So this is Carlow. This is another county page. And as you can see here, all sorts of things. We've got adverts, we've got things about the Barrow River, we've family histories, we've evictions, all sorts of information. And the thing is that with the county pages, they are looked after by volunteers. They are looked after by different volunteers for different counties. And so different people have different levels of expertise with HTML and with setting up web pages. They have different time that they can devote to the pages and so on. So the county pages essentially are a page of links where you can find interesting information. They're worth coming back and checking out every so often because new things turn up on those pages. So that's the county pages. Next thing I want to talk about is pretty much the archive pages. And so on the archive pages, they're actually all the same look and feel. So every county has somebody managing a page. And as I say, they're the same look and feel. They have all sorts of different information on them. So biographies, cemetery records, it's all alphabetically listed. Think of it as a filing cabinet. So your county, your filing cabinet is the website. Your filing drawer is the Clare or the county actual page. And then each of the subfiles within that are the various headings that we have. And I'll come back and I'll show you examples of what's in those headings later on. Okay, so that's essentially what the county page looks like. So the next thing is the Facebook pages. Now, what's great is at the very bottom of the main page, we have a link that sends us to a page for all of the Facebook pages themselves. Okay, now these are private groups that you have to request to join. There are questions asking you when you join, when you go to join the group, there are questions that will be asked. Okay, it won't let me do it because I'm not signed into Facebook here, but essentially it asks what your interest in the county is and will you abide by the rules of the group. Now, the rules of the group are not onerous. It's just be polite, be nice to people, no selling. We're not using the groups to look for living people, no politics, and don't put up screenshots from the subscription websites. Okay, so that's what the page looks like when you go to join it. This is the Clare one, so that you don't see what it looks like when you're an administrator. So it's just a standard Facebook page. There's some files about various people and places and various areas. You've got media and photographs. You've got people putting up posts, asking questions, and so many fantastic people that will just answer questions and help you out. So that's the Facebook pages, and the Facebook groups are great. So the next thing is I want to go through some of the resource examples that we have. So there's loads of different things that you can find on the IGP website. So the first thing that I'd like to talk about, so we've got things like headstone projects, land records, memorial cards. Now, I know County Clare and the library, Clare Roots, have done the most brilliant set of memorial cards and it's phenomenal. There's nothing wrong with the bit of duplication. It means that it's in two places, just in case the website goes or something awful happens. We've got the general Irish stuff, we've newspapers, we've military records, all sorts of everything in these. So what I want to talk about first of all is the headstone projects. And the beauty of the archive pages, I think I forgot to say this, the archive pages are essentially, I don't quite like saying a database, because they're not, they're mainly text files and photographs, but what they are is a list of links to resources that are going to stay there. So the links on the county pages, they can go dead, they can change from time to time. The links on the archive pages will stay. So the headstone project will stay as a headstone project. So for example, we're going to look at 2 of the Dublin projects. So IGP has over 160,000 headstone photographs. So I want to go here, sorry. So this is our Dublin headstone photographs, our headstone project page. And the biggest one of these is Mount Jerome. There's over 40,000 photographs in the Mount Jerome project. So what you do when you get onto the site, if you've got somebody in Mount Jerome, you can actually search up at the top for a name if you're looking for somebody in particular. You've got a text file, and then you've got a photograph. So for example, this shows you all the photographs of the various headstones that are taken from this particular section. And then we have the text file that has all of the photographs transcribed. So another one of them is the Dean's Grange Cemetery. Again, it's a huge undertaking by Joyce Tunstead. It's one that we're absolutely delighted with. Similar enough to many of the projects that Claire Roots have undertaken. These just don't have books published on them, but a good project all the same. Now, the thing about Belfast, so Belfast spans County Down and County Antrim. So Belfast has its own set of Belfast cemetery pages, which can be reached from Antrim or from Down, and has all of the cemeteries in Belfast. So you can see here some of the Antrim cemetery records as well. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is the land records that are held by IGP. So again, these have been transcribed by volunteers. Mary Heafy has done phenomenal work on these. There's in Tipperary, so we've got the forfeited estates, we've got abstracts of deeds in Chancery, encumbered estates. Each of these, it's transcriptions. So when we go into it, we can see information about what estates were on, where the leases were, who the people were. Okay, so recently in Clare Land Records, we have just received, we've just completed the, where is it now? The Kilrush evictions recently, and have the valuation offices revision books have been transcribed as well, which are absolutely brilliant. So that's County Clare's land records that are really good. Memorial cards, another thing that I mentioned. So Clare has a fantastic project. This is the jewel in the crown of the memorial projects on IGP, is the Wexford one. And this was something that Paul Gary suggested to Christina that they start doing. And so the way it's done on the IGP website is you've got a little text file with the information on that's on the card, and then we also have a photograph or an image, so you can pull up the image of the cards. So obviously the later cards have nice color photographs. Earlier cards from the 1930s are black and white, and they mainly have prayers on them. They wouldn't necessarily have photographs of the deceased. But again, a phenomenal resource, lots of information. And as I say, the Wexford memorials are the largest collection that we have on IGP. So the next thing is the general and foreign records. So these are records that span anywhere that doesn't have a particular or a specific county. So one of the things you might see is we have census records. And the thing is that before the census was online, people went into archives and transcribed the census records for whatever area they were looking for. And then they would upload that to places, or they'd make that available. I remember going in and doing it myself for Malahide many years ago. It's a very labor intensive job, but it's great. It was great to have it available for other people. So here we have some census fragments that have been transcribed by Kathy Carley here. So the other things I want to show you in this, so this has cemetery records by J&C Nichols. Now, J&C Nichols are a funeral directors in Dublin, right beside the coroner's court, but they have records that aren't just for Dublin. So they would have had to transport bodies and transported the deceased to various cemeteries around the country. They also had a lot of dealings with various institutions. So we can see here the Bethany Home, for example, Cork Street Fever Hospital. So again, it's mainly up to 1939 from 1919, sorry. So it's a good chunk of early 20th century funerals, and some really interesting stuff in there. So again, it'll tell you the name of the deceased, it'll tell you when they died, what funeral home they went to. Sometimes it has extra information about them, where the funeral went to, who paid for the funeral. And then sometimes it can tell you where they, it went via a chapel or whatever. So again, it's just really interesting, really nice things to find. You might have somebody in there, you might not, but again, it's the kind of resources that you're not going to find anywhere else. It's just quite random. Another huge thing we have, not just for each of the county pages, but again, this is from transcriptions from various newspapers for all over the place. And you can see here, we're going right back to the early 1700s. And it goes up to the early 1900s. So various newspapers and births, deaths, and marriages. So for example, the 7th of January, 1792. And here we have a number of contributions from the Leinster Journal. So one of the things you'll notice is women don't have their first names anymore. It's mainly Mrs. George Rowland or Mrs. Robert Williams or whatever. The odd time you do, but in general, the women disappear. So, okay. So the next thing, why am I showing you Tipperary records? Yeah, Tipperary records. Another thing that again, different counties have different record types. Some have military and constabulary records, some don't. Tipperary I've picked because in its military records, it has the RIC records. So it's got the listings of the RIC members. And when I go here we have clicking into 1857, and I was delighted because just down here, we've got this gentleman in Clare and Limerick, and that happens to be my great grandmother's brother. So phenomenal find, made me very happy. Maybe not making anyone else's happy, but it cheered me up. So I mentioned earlier on the county pages, there are links to random things that can be anywhere. And this is something that I found in County Derry that I think is brilliant. So we have a nice little essay here explaining what this book is. So it's an autograph book from Ballykinlar Prison. And then if you go to the county page, it then gives you each of the pages so you can see everything in the book. And there's some beautiful drawings, and there's a couple of people write a couple of lines of poetry and autographs. But I just loved this little drawing of a football match, and the little imps attacked and there was a bit of a scrum. So I just think that's such a brilliant little drawing. And I just think they're fantastic resources and artifacts that you wouldn't see unless somebody went, ooh, let's put them on IGP. So that's kind of what I was talking about that. So as I mentioned earlier, IGP is based on altruism. It's based on volunteers transcribing and donating material to the IGP archives, similar to people donating material to the Clare County Library. And we really, really love when people do donate stuff to us. So Jane has done huge amounts of work, and Declan Barron is another one of those names that comes up everywhere, all over the records here for Clare. There's so many volunteers for the various counties and for the various record types that it's not fair to single anyone out, really. So I'm going to stop naming names, but it's something we really are grateful for. So at the bottom of every county page, there is a link to the record submission form. And when you click it, you come onto this page here, which is the submission form for the IGP. And we take any form of record, so Bible or church records, cemetery, divorce records, biographies, marriage records, you name it, you can read the page there. So you name it, we're delighted to accept them. So you just click on the specific record type that you want to upload, and then you upload it. It will come up as a text file. What then happens is the submission is submitted to the server, and then an email will come to the county manager. They will then take in the information, and they will upload it as and when they get the time to do it. We try to do it relatively regularly. So here's a list of people who are managing the files. Yeah, so a lot of volunteers, an awful lot of work goes into this. There's also a list of what's new this month. You can get to it both from the bottom of this page, and you can also get to it from the front of the IGP page. So if we go to, so we've got the nice little what's new link here. So every month this gets updated, and you'll see what's gone in the last, so the August, the September editions as they come. So that is pretty much it. As I say, this is a phenomenal resource for any county that you're looking for. It's always worth checking if there's something, and it's worth checking back again every so often if you're going down another rabbit hole or looking for something new. So that's pretty much what I have to say. Use it. So I hope that's okay. So I'm happy to take any questions. So Doug asks, I don't know if there's any questions further up now. Yes, the secret is out. Are there electronic copies of the memorial cards available at a higher resolution? I think the images on the website are the highest resolution that we would keep. However, each of the text files has the email address for the person who's submitted the memorial card. So you could contact them should you wish to do so. Okay, Sharon says that she has used the excellent cemetery records quite a bit. Can I give some tips on the search functions? Sure. Let me just go to a headstone page. Let's pick Cork. So cemetery records and, the difference between cemetery records and, sorry, I've just realized I'm not sharing my screen. The difference between cemetery records and headstone records is that the headstone records have photographs of the actual headstones. The cemetery records are transcriptions. So it might be a transcription of the graveyard or the cemetery done recently, or it may also be transcriptions of the Irish Journal for the Memorials of the Dead. So for example, okay, this one's a short and small one, just giving us the information on this particular person, the legates and their 2 stones. So Mount Jerome. Let me go back to Mount Jerome, which is a really good example of, so hang on, Dublin, and we go to headstones, and we go to, so Mount Jerome, just here at the top, we have our search. So this one is just to search Mount Jerome. So we can go in and we can put, sorry, who asked the question? I'll put in your surname. Okay, I can't, while I'm sharing my screen, I cannot see anything. So the first surname I see is Halloran. So we can just put in the surname you're searching for, click search, and it should pick up any entry for that surname. So Hallorans and O'Hallorans all come up. So I hope that answered the question. Okay. Thanks and digits. Yeah. Who is paying for hosting the page? What guarantee going forward that the same will not become pay per view? Good question, Larry. It is actually being hosted by volunteers, and the IGP do not a huge amount of fundraising, but enough to be able to maintain the services of the website provider. And the idea of pay per view is an anathema to us. It's just, that's just wrong. And so as long as we can fund it, it will be available for free. So some nice comments saying thank you as well. You're most welcome. I'm delighted to be here. Any other questions?
It seems to me, Aileen, that you could spend hours going through that. I mean, really, with the vast amount of different types of records and documents, particularly what you mentioned there earlier was the Kilrush or Kilkee, the
Kilrush evictions.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that there's also a set by somebody else of transcriptions of the Kilrush evictions on the Clare County website.
Okay.
And am I interested in headstones, marriage records, etc. of Clare for people who went to the United States? Absolutely, yes. Yes, we are. They can go onto the Clare page, and we are absolutely thrilled and delighted to put them up. Would IGP accept a USA cemetery booklet including about 20 people from Clare? What I think we would do, Ron, is we would put up the people, or anybody, not just from Clare, if anyone in that cemetery is from Ireland, we'd absolutely put them up. I will have to come back to you if you leave me your contact details. If you private message me, I'll come back to you and as to whether we'd put up the rest of it, because that would not be my decision. But if you private message me your email and the question, I will come back to you with that. I went through that very quickly. I'm a little bit scared that I've forgotten to say things that I'd meant to say. But I think I did.
What about newspapers, Aileen? Somebody mentioned here about headstones and etc. in the US, but even newspapers, would you
absolutely
be able to put that up? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I did say I wasn't going to do much about County Clare. However, one of the very recent things that went up on the website for Clare was, hang on a minute, let me find this. Clare, we go into so we have a whole page for newspapers, and so the County Clare stuff, we've got like a single thing from 1747, and if we go down the latest one, so there's various assorted dates for some US newspapers, but the latest one that's gone in from 1915 is a very, very sad case of a divorce in County Clare in it was actually in the Broadford area in Sallybank. And it was a whole page in the newspaper in both the Clare Record and in the Saturday Record and the Clare Journal. It was about 3/4 of a page in the Clare Champion at the time. So again, not necessarily something that happens very often, but again, newspaper, any sort of newspaper article that is a family story or a human story, absolutely we're delighted to put up. So like Declan Barron's done some transcriptions of various births and deaths from the Clare Journal. Again, some of the things, the records that we would have on the IGP website will be duplicated in other arenas. So for example, within Clare, you'll have the newspaper death notices that you have. That said, it's always handy to have them, just in case you find them in one place, you might not find them in the other. And when you have different people doing different transcriptions, sometimes you might get a tiny discrepancy. So, yeah, let's see. Yes, Liam, the Clare Library is a phenomenal resource. It is. The thing about Clare Library is it's an amazing resource, but it's an amazing resource because there's been so many people, including the Clare Root Society, that have worked really hard to transcribe stuff and put it up. And Peter and the guys in the library itself are absolutely amazing at managing it. And we are extraordinarily lucky in Clare to have such a resource. Most counties don't have that. And as a result of that, in some ways, the county page for IGP is a little bit less relevant in Clare as its pages would be for other counties that don't have that kind of a resource. So, yeah, there's so many different things on this. So I'm trying to think. There's just so many bits that I love going through and just wandering through and looking at the records and finding, various stories and things. For example, an act of outrage, as unjustifiable as it was, unprovoked, you'd wonder how unprovoked it actually was. But 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody assailed. Yeah. I don't think there's any reason for me. Where might you find my email address? Let me put my email address in the chat should you wish to email me. Okay, that's my email address. Is there a Facebook page for most counties, and is there an All Ireland Facebook page? There is a Facebook page for all counties. So from the front page, if we go down the bottom, we can find the page with Facebook groups. Now there is not an All Ireland Facebook page for IGP. So we do not have an All Ireland page. We do have one for every county in the country. So yeah, thanks for that, Marion.
Does anybody else have any questions they want to put into the chat box there for Aileen while we have her here? I think we're.
Or if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question, that would.
Yeah, you can unmute yourself, yeah.
stunned silence.
Yeah. Do you know what it is?
Maybe I've just bored everyone to death.
The website will go down after we get off there. Everybody will go into the IGP.
The thing is, it's one of those websites that you start looking at something and you go, oh, this is cute. And then you go somewhere else and you find something else. And it
yeah.
In fairness, it's like the Annis Library website. You can spend hours on it just finding random things. And then you realize that actually you had come with a plan to look for something specific. You know?
Yeah, you go down the rabbit hole. Now, Liam has a question.
He does. I started a genealogy course in Ennis. Is there any part of the IGP resource that would be most helpful? So it depends what you're actually looking for, Liam. There are so many different things on the website. So on the archive pages, hang on. Am I sharing my screen again?
You are, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I should really just open another. So I shouldn't have closed all my pages. Okay, so from the home page, I'm going to just, since Liam is doing the course in Clare, we'll go with Clare. And we have 2 pages for County Clare. We have the archive page, which is this one. The archive page, as I say, the same look and feel for every other county. Here's the archive page. It's the same look and feel. So you've biographies. There's only a couple of people in here, but okay, there's only one person in County Clare. Different counties have, you know, greater or lesser extents. The headstones are quite good. A number of different cemeteries here. I have found which one did I find? It depends what you're looking for, where your family are, and what specific areas that you are actually researching as to which ones are going to be really helpful to you. So it's a bit difficult to tell you what's going to be helpful to you specifically. But yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic resource, Marion. The census substitutes are one, like this one is landowners that are taken from the 1870 what's the name of that book again? Landowners over is it over £5? But again, this has been extracted and it has been printed out, so it's easy to find. Another book that you'll only find once in a while in some libraries, and not, as far as I know, this isn't actually digitized anywhere else. But I found that quite useful. You've got transcriptions from some directories. Again, using directories when you're trying to research families and occupations. The memorial cards. So some of the memorial cards that are on the Clare Memorial, the IGP Memorial website, are also on the Clare Library website. Some of them may not be. At some point, I would like to go through them and make sure that everything is in both places, but that's not going to be this year. We've got, did you do that one, Jane? No, it was Christina did a timeline of Bunratty. So again, the history of Bunratty Castle, useful for some, nice thing to have. Yeah, so any other questions? Or have I bored everyone to tears at this stage? Jane's on mute.
Yeah, it's excellent. It's very good. It's actually very good. There's a huge amount of stuff to go through there. Like the constabulary, the RIC, that's really, like, I didn't see that before. That's something I'd probably go through at some stage, but there's a huge amount. I think it's fantastic. And I think it's a good point that you made that on several occasions during the course of the talk. It's good to have things in 2 places. Clare Library website, IGP, because if one goes down, it's hopefully on the other. So I think that's very important, not to have it just in one place. So I think, yeah, very, very good. Excellent. Now, does anybody, it doesn't look like anybody has any other questions. That was excellent, Aileen. Thanks very much for that. That was really, really good. And it's something, it's a resource now I think we can all think about now as we get started back into genealogy, or continuing on with our genealogy this year with the new lecture, the new series of lectures. So I'm going to, since there's no questions, I'm just going to reiterate what I reiterated there at the beginning. Larry Brennan corrected me. The Old Mill Street book is on sale for €20. The Cluny Graveyards is €15. And as I said, those are available for sale through the Ennis Bookshop, Mary Kelly Newsagents, and O'Connor's Newsagents, all in Ennis. I think they might be in Lahinch Bookshop. I'm not sure. Eric, is that the case or not? They possibly could be in Lahinch. I know they were at one stage. There were some books for sale. But anyway, if anybody has any difficulty trying to get a book, just let us know, and we'll get back to you as to where you can purchase them. Just another reminder that we have our next meeting is the 21st of October. This year, obviously the third Thursday of the month, 8 o'clock. It's a Zoom meeting. Kieran Riley is the speaker. He's a professor of history at Maynooth. He's also a 19th and 20th century historian. He's a famine historian. He's done a huge amount of work on the Irish famine, the evictions, and he's going to be talking to us about evictions during the Great Irish Famine. That's the topic for his talk. And if you want to mark your calendar further, the 18th of November, 8 o'clock, Thursday night, the third Thursday, again on Zoom, Colm Liddy. Colm Liddy is a local historian in Newmarket-on-Fergus. He published a book there very recently, long ago in Newmarket-on-Fergus. Very interesting book on a lot of local history, full of photographs, etc., with regard to Newmarket-on-Fergus. He will be speaking about the O'Briens of Dromoland. So the 21st of October and the 18th of November, both talks are on Zoom. We will be sending out an email to that effect. We'll also be putting it up on Facebook and on Twitter, and our usual in the Clare Champion. So I'd like to thank everybody for your attendance and for your questions. It was great to see everybody, back. Heading now into the winter, so we have more time for our genealogy and time for our Zoom talks, etc. And we'll see you the next time, hopefully here on Zoom on the 21st of October. Okay, thanks a million, Aileen. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.